I dreamed that the salon in Dubai will finally start generating a net profit. Well, I guess I'll be upset when I'm lying in my grave. That's it. Only then will I really be upset. What would you like to leave behind after your death? For example, I've realized that I no longer want to be an entrepreneur. And I won't share. You don't even need to write. Honestly, I could betray someone too. She used to have sex for money. You didn't pay for my first class? Goodbye. Next. After excess comes deficiency, and we grow old. I'm hard to win over. With this person, I really felt everything. But it wasn't with a man. Happiness is living your own life and not caring about what others think. That's all. Period.
Beyond beauty, fear, truth, and the real Lera Ruma, Lera Ruma is the founder of Krasivo.Project, a chain of conceptual art beauty spaces. She is also a speaker and mentor, consulting beauty entrepreneurs. But today's episode isn't about titles, it's about the woman behind them. Who is Lera Ruma when the lights go off? Is she truly fearless as she appears, or is there softness beneath the straight?
Lera, thank you for being here today. Just a few days ago, I couldn't even imagine that this would be possible. And when you spoke here at the event, I found out about it less than a day in advance. That's why our mindset, the power of thought, and in fact our actions work in truly incredible ways. So I want to thank you for being here. And as they say, every coincidence is truly not a coincidence.
Wonderful. I hope that today will be of value to our audience, and that everyone will take away something meaningful for themselves.
Yes, that's true. Today, I'd like to talk with you about the fact that achieving true success on Instagram is a long journey. One that many people don't know about or even suspect. And I'm truly glad that more and more people are waking up and realizing how important it is to live a conscious life. Everything we do, the way we experience it, the products we create or the services we offer, it's all done for a reason. That's why today I want to talk about the true cost of success, and especially for those who are still searching for their path or are on their way. I'd like to offer some valuable ideas or methods to help them reach the goals they aspire to. Lera, my first question, we all come from childhood. I'd love to know, what was 10-year-old Lera like, and what did she dream about?
I dreamed of becoming an actress or a doctor or a flight attendant. I dreamed a lot. What else did I dream about? I wish summer would come sooner so I could go to my grandparents' country house near Elchevsk and spend wonderful times there with my brothers and sisters. I dreamed of studying less and watching more anime. I dreamed of coming home and having my grandmother feed me delicious cutlets as soon as possible. I dreamed that there would be a quarantine by chance and I wouldn't have to go to school for a week or two.
Yes.
That's it. Those were the kinds of dreams I had as a child in general.
Awesome! So you already had several different ideas of who you wanted to be.
I think a lot of people had several different ideas. I think as kids we'd see one profession and think, oh, what a cool job, a doctor, for example. I wanted to be a doctor. I really dreamed about it. Why? Because as a child, I was given a doctor's kit, and I absolutely loved it. But then the first time I had my blood drawn from a vein, I realized, no, I would never want to be a doctor again. And that's exactly what happened. I didn't become a doctor. And I gave up on that dream because I'm terribly afraid of blood. Then I dreamed of becoming a flight attendant because my mom said that flight attendants are beautiful, earn a lot of money, and can successfully get married. And for some reason, I thought it would be great to be a flight attendant. Then I wanted to be an actress, yes. Back then, I was watching the popular TV series Poor Nastia. Oh, it would be amazing to act in the series Poor Nastia. So what do children dream about? About what adults impose on them.
Exactly. So, overall, how do you think a father's and mother's upbringing influences a child's destiny?
I don't know. That's a difficult question. I definitely think it has some impact, but we are all so different as people. Some people were raised poorly, some grew up in orphanages. I have countless examples of friends, acquaintances, or just people I know who grew up in orphanages. For example, take Seryoza Yuzin, we'll definitely leave a link. He grew up in an orphanage, but he became the first person, the first person to run the longest distance in Ukraine. He was also the first person to be so actively involved in charity work in the Kharkiv region. Overall, he is an incredible person with a big heart, intelligent and wise. So, despite the fact that he grew up in an orphanage where everyone fought and beat each other. I know countless people I studied with at the academy who came from very successful families with governesses and tutors. Yet they ended up badly. They became alcoholics, got into drugs, or however you want to put it. So I don't know, maybe it's fate, or maybe it depends on the person or on their past lives. I don't know what it depends on. That's it. So it has some kind of influence. Or maybe it doesn't influence anything at all.
Everything is individual. Is it about strength of character and desire?
Probably.
All right. Thank you very much. What were you like before Lera Ruma began?
Listen, I became Lera Ruma when I was 17. Yes, I was already Lera Ruma. For some reason, many people think that I became, let's say, a little bit popular.
Yes.
And then came up with a pseudonym for myself. No, actually, I was already Lera Ruma at 17 when my girlfriends and I came up with pseudonyms for ourselves. I simply combined my two last names, which I won't mention and never do, and that's how I got a beautiful pseudonym, Ruma. My first last name starts with Ru, and my second last name starts with Ma. So it turns into Ruma. No one knows. How do you know? Even my closest people don't know my last names.
Internet.
From the internet?
Yes.
Shameless people post my real last names on the internet. I'll have to clean up those articles.
Maybe. What are you dreaming about right now?
You know, as you get older, it becomes harder to dream. I have a few dreams. I dream that the salon in Dubai will finally start generating a clear profit. I dream that my birthday will go wonderfully and that all my favorite people will gather. Yes, I record podcasts with my friends. I dream that there would be no more. I'm not just saying that I want the war in Ukraine to end as soon as possible because that would be very selfish. I dream that as soon as possible, people everywhere would put an end to all wars. What's happening in Afghanistan? Yes, what's happening to women there? I dream of getting a visa to Afghanistan and flying there to record a podcast about Afghan women. I dream that people would stop killing whales and stop littering so much. Although people tell me, you should only dream about the war ending in Ukraine. Well, that's not the only thing I dream about. I believe the world is vast and there are people who focus solely on that. And that's great, but I also think about other things and that's perfectly normal. That's why I have global dreams, and I also have smaller work-related dreams that I want to accomplish as soon as possible. Of course, I want to reach 1 million subscribers on YouTube as soon as possible, and for all my guests to agree to join me for podcasts and interviews. So I dream every day, though more accurately, I set certain goals for myself. That's how it is.
Awesome. Thank you. Tell me, please, let's talk about your daily schedule. How do you start your day? Maybe you have some practices, habits, or rituals. And in general, do you rely on your intuition? Because it seems to me that you are quite a pragmatic and structured person.
Yes, I have very strong discipline. I am a systems-oriented person. Do I have any rituals or meditations? No, I don't meditate. I often thank God for the life I am living. I wouldn't want to live someone else's life, for example, Elon Musk's, Donald Trump's, Zelensky's, Yulia Tymoshenko's, or even Chichvarkin's, for instance. I wouldn't want to live their lives. I wouldn't want to live anyone else's life but my own. And honestly, I really truly enjoy it. That's the absolute truth. I actually admire my own life, I can say that.
That's awesome.
I don't have any rituals, I don't meditate. I thank God in the morning, wake up, brush my teeth, and plan reels or some content for the day. That's a ritual too. Every night I take melatonin because I have trouble sleeping. I try to call my mom and my younger brother every day. I make an effort to communicate with my team every day. It doesn't always happen, but I strive to do it. I try to read 20 pages a day. I go to wash my face and really try to take good care of my skin. I have 3 secrets. They're called 3 riddle shots. I swear to you guys, they cost just 10 or 20 bucks. You can toss out Biologic and everything else from your shelves. Just get yourself 3 Korean skincare products. Riddle shot, I'll send you the details later. Yes, and that's the truth. I mean, I'm not leaving any links. I brought them from Korea and people still write to me. You have such a cool, amazing complexion. First of all, I got new teeth and my face has changed. Secondly, I really started using affordable Korean skincare, even though I have the budget for anything I need. So, these are the kinds of rituals I follow. Plus, I try to keep my focus on where I'm going, why I'm going there, why am I working. That's probably it.
Awareness, once again, it's...
Yes, keeping myself in focus.
Tell me, please, about your most challenging moments. Break time equals 0.5s/. Have you ever experienced a significant turning point when you truly felt like giving up entirely? But despite those overwhelming feelings, you still pushed forward with unwavering determination and ultimately did not quit.
That has never happened in my life. That has never happened in my life.
No way.
I've never had a moment in my life when I wanted to give up. There have been many turning points, and they still happen. There are also significant obligations to investors, yes. There are some challenges with the team, and there are some difficulties in personal relationships, too. But even so, I can't even imagine myself saying, "That's it, I give up and I'll just lie down." I always say, to give up is to die. That's it. Recently, someone asked me on a podcast, "When do you get really upset?" Actually, not on a podcast. Right now I have a spiritual mentor, a criminal psychologist. But that's another story.
Wow, listen.
Yes. And he's a spiritual mentor. He's a master. And his family has taught many of the world's leaders. I'm not afraid to say it. His family, meaning his ancient lineage, he comes from a very old lineage.
Incredible.
So he asks me, "When will you really get upset?" And I say, "Well, I guess I'll be upset when I'm lying in my grave. That's it. Then I'll really be upset because nothing can be changed anymore." But otherwise, there's never been a moment when I said, "That's it, I give up." No, that's never happened.
Listen, honestly, you're always so positive. You're always full of energy. Even just being near you, it's an incredible energy. It's truly amazing.
Thank the Lord. But honestly, I don't do anything special to open my chakras, even though there's always room for improvement. I just always live my life this way. I always try to stay positive, even when there are a lot of problems. That's just how it is. Honestly, there are a lot of challenges, guys. Someone once told me, "I want to be like you." I said, "Guys, trust me, you really don't want that. I enjoy the life I live, but it's my life. It's mine alone."
Yes.
With all my lessons, insights, challenges, and mistakes. There are times when I make critical mistakes, but that's my journey. It's mine.
Great, now we're talking specifically about you and your journey. Maybe you could share with our viewers where it's best to start on the path to self-discovery? How can someone understand who they are and what they truly want? Especially for young people.
Not everyone has their own path. Not everyone has their own path. That's true.
But each of us, every single one, can choose their own path. And if a person starts to reflect,
everyone definitely makes a choice. Does everyone have a great mission? No. Does everyone have a mission? Also no. That's what I believe, but I could be wrong. It's just my assumption. This shouldn't be taken as the absolute truth. No, not at all. But I believe that not everyone has a mission. Not everyone has a goal. Not everyone is aware of how they live. That's it.
No.
There are simply people who came to sustain our earth. They just came to provide support. I too was once a soul like that, who simply came to provide the earth with resources. 100%, that was me. That's why I believe that the people watching this video are definitely striving to live a conscious life, which means they have a mission, and therefore they have a certain path. I believe that being aware, striving to be unique, recognizing your own authenticity, not simply doing what everyone else does, but at the same time sometimes analyzing the people around you, seeing what tools they use, and perhaps adopting some of those tools for yourself, so to speak, is important. Don't put your trust in a vast number of spiritual mentors and guides, because there are false preachers out there. And even in the Bible, it is written that the closer the end of the world comes, the more false preachers there will be. That's why it's important to distinguish the wheat from the chaff. As Chichvarkin said, I ask, how do you tell the wheat from the chaff? By sifting it out, that's all.
Awesome.
That's all. So yes, it may sound harsh, but I truly believe that, unfortunately, many people lack a mission and a purpose in this life. They simply came here to maintain the earth. And deep down, you already know this yourself. For example, I knew it from my very first conscious breath, from my very first word. I knew that I had simply lived many lives, and I have an immense accumulated potential. And that's perfectly normal. There was a time when you too were just a young soul, living aimlessly, simply enjoying life.
Yes.
There was a time when it was like that for me too. That's normal. There will come a time when your soul too, I believe, according to my life philosophy, will clearly understand what it needs to do. That's all there is to it. It will have enough energy. When you wake up, you have a lot of energy. You go to bed and can't sleep because you have energy. But that's my subjective opinion.
I completely share that opinion with you. I've also been told that I've lived many lives, and now what I'm doing, starting a new podcast, a new project, is exactly that. Every day I wake up with incredible energy, even if I have, say, 8 calls lined up. And right now I'm going through customer development, yet I go to bed still filled with this intense energy. Honestly, there was a real point of no return when I realized that I can't and don't want to live the way I used to. So yes, thank you for sharing. Could you share, for example, your top 3 rules that help you move toward your goals?
I think the first one is definitely discipline and consistency. The second is to always set new goals, constantly new goals. In other words, there needs to be a goal that guides you forward, and it has to be your own goal. If your goal is something like, oh, I want a Lamborghini or to buy a Chanel bag, but it doesn't actually excite you, and you just want it because that's what society expects, then that's not the right motivation.
Right.
That's not really a compelling story. For example, I don't want a Lamborghini, and it's perfectly fine not to want what others desire. Seriously, that's absolutely normal. But I really wanted an Hermes bag. I wanted it a lot. It was truly my own desire. That's it, and I got it. What we genuinely want, we will achieve. But what society wants, right? Just because it's trendy. That's where the questions start to arise. You always need to understand what you truly want in the company for yourself. Maybe you want to be an amazing mom, or have a great marriage. That's awesome. Why not? Exactly. But people tell you, you need to be an entrepreneur, but maybe you don't need that at all, right? For example, I realized that I no longer want to be an entrepreneur.
No way.
Total fiasco. Yes, I've realized it's just not for me. I don't feel like.
Why is that? What do you want to do now?
I want to work on social projects and charity. Engage in large-scale community work. That's exactly what I truly want to do. That's why I'll gradually start stepping back. I'll take a year, maybe 2 or 3, to transition, adapt, and let the team take over these responsibilities. Whether it turns out well or not, we'll see. Maybe it won't work out, or maybe it will. That's how it is. That's why you just have to be honest with yourself. What is truly mine, and what isn't? There are stages of evolution, cycles in life. And it's important to always recognize that we hit a feeling when we're unwilling to move on to the next life cycle. A cycle comes to an end just like kindergarten, school, or university. In the same way, every adult goes through their own life cycles. For example, you're here, you've already achieved quite a bit. Maybe you should keep going. Maybe your life cycle is to do this for 10 or 15 years, or maybe it's time to move on to the next level. Especially now, as life is moving faster than ever.
How did you realize it was time to move to the next level? Were you tired, or?
No, I wasn't tired.
Trust your intuition.
You feel it. You sense it, you feel where you're being led, you just feel it. Plus, I have an amazing, very private mentor whom I work with. I won't be sharing any details, so don't even ask. Yes, this is extremely confidential information. There are some things that simply shouldn't be shared.
Yes, it's deeply personal. Not for everyone.
Exactly.
You know, when I was recording the introduction to this video in English, you'll hear it later. I also described you as a philanthropist. And now you've also mentioned your social mission and role. That's truly impressive, honestly.
Thank you so much. There was a time when I had a call. I was in Cappadocia with my mentor, and he said, Lera, let's be honest, you've outgrown business. But that's what I wanted, right? Now I'm going to build a multi-million-dollar company. He said, well, it's just not your path. Can you do it? Well, maybe you can, but it's not truly yours. Your soul and your mission are just a bit different. Okay. Yes, I already felt it. I already knew it. But true. You've been doing this your whole life. You've been working in this field. You know exactly what you're capable of. And here it turns out you need to adapt. So it seems you have to rebuild yourself. That's how it is.
Amazing. Thank you. And could you please share with me the most significant, perhaps even profoundly painful event in your entire life that completely and utterly changed you, or perhaps somehow truly gave you that deep inner core, that immense strength and unwavering resilience that genuinely helps you to move forward and progress in your life?
There were many. The first was my trip to China. When I went to work there as a very young girl, I was 18 or 19 years old, when I witnessed terrible situations when people arrive with nothing to eat, unable to feed their families or children, and they were sick. These were my models, the ones I worked with and lived with in the same apartment. I grew up in a well-off, normal family. I grew up in a very good family. Everything was wonderful for me. I was loved. Everything was great. And then I realized, wow, this is how people live. They face poverty. They have 6 children and nothing to feed them. Sisters, brothers, some of the children have autism, and they struggle to earn a living. Bang! A turning point of realization. Oh, the world is actually different. And yes, I used to walk around. I saw people who didn't have much money, but that wasn't the context of my own life. But here I found myself directly in the context where people, without choosing it, end up in difficult circumstances from the very beginning. Yes, in other words, people have different starting points. I had an excellent starting position. That's it. That's probably why I'm moving faster than others, because I had a good starting position. And that's something that needs to be acknowledged. Some people didn't have such a starting position. But if they were geniuses, they would develop even faster. Well, that's true, yes. So again, it all depends on the person, their starting position. There are many factors at play. That's the first thing, yes. The second thing, well, as I recall, the first thing that comes to mind is when the war started in 2014, because I'm from the Luhansk region. And the second is when the war started in 2022, or rather, when it continued. Yes, it continued, but on a much larger scale, The year 2022 really hit me hard, tremendously so. And it also took a toll on my health. And then, right after that, at the end of 2023, I went through a personal turning point when I realized that people are not always as they present themselves. Some people can be two-faced. And this actually happened within my closest circle, my inner circle. And that's okay. That was my experience. And I am grateful to that person for it. Most likely, our souls agreed that he would give me this kind of
a karmic lesson.
Yes, such a deep pain that it was very hard for me to get through it. And what happened next? Well, all these situations really strengthened me. That's how it was.
That's awesome. Listen, you mentioned the situation at the end of 2023. I have a question. Why do you think people betray each other?
Because we are human, and I, too, am capable of betraying someone. Honestly, I could also betray someone.
Has that ever happened?
Probably, yes. I can't remember. I am human, too. I can betray someone, and it would be connected to my own interests and benefit. And maybe I don't even realize that I'm betraying someone, but for them, I will be seen as a traitor. And in my own eyes, I might not see myself as a traitor, so that's why I say I don't know. Maybe I have betrayed someone. So I don't know. We are human, and that's normal. There's no need to hold a grudge against anyone. We all live our first life consciously, but perhaps unconsciously, it's not our first. So, well, that's possible. What do we really want from ourselves? We expect loyalty from others when we ourselves don't even know what to expect from ourselves, what we might do tomorrow, yet we expect certain actions from others.
Yes, it's better not to become enchanted, so you won't be disappointed later.
Without expectations. I can trust 100%, for example, only my family. I can trust my family completely. These are the people I've spent so much of my life with. I know them, I understand them. Yes, of course, I can trust them 100%.
Unconditional love in both directions. Mutual.
Well, that's what it is when you're with these people, right? You know them, and they know you. That's just how it is, but I could be mistaken here as well. Just something to think about.
All right. Please tell me about your main sources of support. I think everyone has them to some extent. Maybe not everyone, but my circle definitely does.
I believe my family is my foundation. To some extent, my friends are my support as well. I am my own support.
I understand.
That's all, really. Those are my pillars of support. Money is also a source of support. When I have money set aside, I feel good about it. What? By the way, that's actually my most important source of support. In fact, the strongest pillar for me is having my safety cushion, which I keep in a safe deposit box. It's quite a substantial amount.
Yes, it gives you freedom.
Of course, I know for sure that I could drop everything and leave tomorrow.
By the way, where would you go?
I don't know. Maybe South Africa? If I want to spend a year in South Africa, I can. I'll just go and spend a year in South Africa.
Anything is possible.
It's just a bit of reflection. It's about what I can actually afford.
All right. I'm curious to know how you see the new generation of men today.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I see men who are quite immature. Honestly, but I will say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong place or expecting too much. My friends are wonderful people, but in my circle, there are also millionaires and billionaires. These are my friends, I care about them deeply, but some of them want to treat women. There are two types who treat women like dolls. They simply want to see a silent doll, someone who just bows her head and sits quietly without saying a word. And that's unfortunate. I mean, I understand and I tell them, guys, this is a block in your own minds. They want everything to look perfect, for her Instagram to be polished, for her to be all put together. But then they get upset when it turns out that she used to have sex for money. It turns out that she only chooses to be with you for money. At the same time, I say, choose the right person, even just by looking at Instagram. If a girl only has, say, Hermes and Chanel bags, and she doesn't do anything.
Yeah, honestly, it's immediately clear.
What are you expecting? That's what I say. They often ask, but what did you expect? It's your choice. You choose in your mind to prove something to those around you, to have a super glamorous girl with a stunning Instagram, but at the same time you know she's with you for money, and you know she has a price. That's it, this problem is in their head. Then there are others, for example, like Chichvarkin. That's all. So that she is an independent person with her own career, wonderful, amazing, extraordinary, someone you can have meaningful conversations with. That's why he told me directly that everything depends on whether a person is confident or not. He might have a lot of money, but still be extremely insecure. Regarding immaturity, indeed, there are many immature men. Why is that? Women have become strong, mature, responsible, and they certainly have their own choices.
Is it because of men's immaturity?
I don't know. Maybe they became immature because we became strong? It's unclear.
Perhaps.
I don't know. But beauty is in the eye of the beholder. There are certainly a great number of amazing people, amazing men. What women shouldn't do is immediately look into a man's wallet, judge him solely by his potential, or only by how he treats you. Look at how genuine this person is. That's it. A wallet is the last place you should be looking. The very last place, truly. But how is it now? You didn't pay for first-class ticket? Goodbye. Next, next. And with too much selection, you end up with not enough. And we grow older.
Yes, I've actually heard so many stories about this in London, by the way. But for me, honestly, it's a big surprise because I'm also an achiever. I do everything myself. Yes, everything myself, you know? But there are completely different stories as well. But we don't judge, we accept. Let's put it that way. Everyone chooses their own path, and that's okay. But we're talking about mindfulness. That's it.
It all depends on who, how, where, and what. But here the question is more for men, and for women in general as well. But we all live with our own traumas, and for some reason we choose one person or another. We just need to be aware of whom we choose. Why does the same scenario keep repeating itself? Maybe, after all, there's something within us? That's how it is.
Lera, what do you notice or pay attention to first when you meet someone? Whether it's a man or a woman, it doesn't matter.
Well, what an interesting question. What do I pay attention to? I don't know. I really don't know. I pay attention to the image. Yes, probably like that. Not at any specific details, like what are you wearing? I look at the overall image. Yes, that's probably the first thing. A person isn't made up of details, so it's hard for me to answer the question. I look at the person's image and think, does it match with me or not? Or sometimes I don't even think about it. I don't think about it. It just happens intuitively, either it matches or it doesn't, something like that. So,
Got it, it is the feeling.
yes, I don't look at what kind of bag he has or how expensive everything is. Of course, those things do catch the eye, but overall I evaluate the image.
Thank you. And tell me, what do you value most in men?
I value sincerity. And when men, let's say, know the value of their words. In other words, if you say it, you do it. If you don't do it, it's better not to say it.
I absolutely support that. All right. And in women?
In women, I truly value a keen sharpness of mind and a delightful sense of humor. I also appreciate good style, refined taste, and an undeniable sophistication.
Tell me, what attracted you to your man? When you also realized, this is exactly the person I want to share my life with, to live with. No one knows for how long, but at that moment.
To try to do something in life. A sense of humor, yes, and trying to do something in life, I think that's wonderful. Even if something doesn't work out, the person tries, they have many attempts and mistakes, but they keep trying to do something. Yes, it's this thirst, this drive. Well, probably it's this energy of action.
Did that win you over?
It's hard to win me over, to be honest. It didn't win me over, I just liked it. It's very hard to win me over to the point where I would say, oh my God, that's it. I've realized that's impossible. I'm just very demanding of myself, and those around me really very demanding. Well, that's just how it turned out.
Thank you for your honest answer. Tell me, please, what are the top 3 most important things in a relationship?
Well, I'm such a relationship expert, I don't know, probably trust, being in love, and admiration for each other. Because when people don't admire each other, there's no love there. I believe the truest thing is when that spark remains, when there is endless admiration for each other. That's why it's always better, of course, even if you've been married for 5 or 6 years, or you've been dating for a year, because people tend to relax over time, and in some unpleasant moments start to surface subconsciously. You begin to admire each other less, but since you've been together for so long, you feel like you can't just leave. That's why it's important to always stay engaged, and try not to show your obvious flaws to your partner. Even though it might seem like, I just want to be myself. I don't know. That's not really the best approach. If people are married, does that mean they automatically owe each other something?
Yes.
They owe something to their children. They do because they made the decision to have those children. Between each other, yes, they should be honest. If everything is going well, I think they should really listen to each other. For example, if you tell someone, it bothers me that you drink a lot, and the person says, okay, I'll try to work on that.
Yes, I hear you.
Or for instance, if I say I don't like that you're dependent, and we'll break up if this continues, then the person should really listen. But again, it's their choice whether to listen or not. For example, what should a woman say to a man? I don't like it when you get drunk, right? Please work on this. It makes me uncomfortable. You understand that your relationship will fall apart, because the person will stop admiring you, respecting you, valuing you. That's it. In other words, there needs to be this ability to really hear each other, an emotional connection. Yes, we hear each other, we understand each other. We are honest people with each other.
Yes.
Exactly.
So tell me, what does intimacy mean to you?
Intimacy is when I can discuss anything in the world with a person. At night, during the day, in the morning. Well, for me, it's probably emotional closeness. When we share common interests, we're moving in the same direction, we have shared goals, and we can trust each other 90%.
Awesome. And how would you describe the word soulmates? Kindred spirits, soulmates. Is it the same thing?
What does soulmates mean to me?
Soulmates, yes.
I believe that when we come into this world, we all arrive as groups up above. Yes, as groups, a group of souls. We often go through experiences together. The first life, the second, maybe even on different planets, I suppose, though that might not be the case. Accordingly, we come to this planet and encounter each other at different ages. When we're 20, 50, 10, or 60, we meet and realize, this is amazing, this person feels like family. In other words, we sense the vibe, and it's easy for us to connect and find common ground with this person. Friends, for instance, I'm not sure. Man and woman, woman and woman, man and man. Right? So we feel this closeness perhaps because we've shared some experiences together before. Or maybe it's because we currently have common interests. But there was a time when I truly felt like I was one soul with another person. I truly felt that, we were extremely close in some kind of relationship. I could literally sense the other person's soul. I would wake up and just know what was happening with them in the same city. I had never experienced anything like that before. But with this particular person, I could feel absolutely everything, every detail. But I had such an episode. I would wake up at 5 in the morning and I knew exactly what the person was doing at that moment, how they were breathing, what they were living for. It was like that.
Incredible.
Yes, exactly.
And what happened that made you realize it was time to part ways? What was the situation?
Actually, it wasn't with a man.
I understand, it doesn't matter.
We didn't break up.
So you're still kindred spirits, even now?
Well, you could say that.
Amazing. And this happened only once in your life? It never happened again?
No, it never happened again. It was truly a match. A real connection of women's souls. Sometimes all it takes is just a single look. I wish for every person to experience this, truly every person. It doesn't matter if it's with the opposite sex or the same sex.
Of course.
But when you realize that maybe it was even a part of your own soul, just split.
A soul has no gender, really.
Yes, it divided, and you just feel, what an amazing question. Truly an amazing question. How would I say goodbye to that amount of money? It's simple. I would definitely, yes, right away, I think I would definitely help. I would send targeted assistance to people. Not to a foundation, but directly to women who are fighting cancer. Absolutely. I would definitely help all the pensioners from Ukraine who are now left without a home, without their apartments, and who simply have nothing. We have a pensioners fund that provides meals for pensioners. They have this program called Help, Lunch 83. So I would definitely help them right away. I'm just saying I don't know exactly how much to give to each person. But I would definitely transfer to them a sum of money, a sum of support. I would definitely help parents whose children have autism or SMA. You know, that disease where a single injection costs an enormous amount of money. What else would I do next? There are also organizations that fight against whaling. Whaling! And there is this wonderful girl who is involved. She fights, well, basically, she fights against the capture and killing of whales because that's already considered barbaric. And definitely, I would support animal shelters, specifically in Ukraine. Well, maybe also in Poland. They also require a significant amount of funding. I would buy myself a house. To be honest, I would buy myself a house somewhere in England.
So, okay, you're considering England as a potential place to live.
Well, why not? Why not? I would buy myself a house in England and definitely invest in some of my own startups. That's it. There you go. All the money is gone right away. How much did you say, 3?
No, just 1 trillion.
Well, that would be enough. I would also definitely set aside a portion for a program that's currently developing artificial meat. Exactly.
Well,
that too would go there as well. One of the venture funds I would like to invest in.
You haven't eaten meat.
There you go. The money is all spent, everyone.
Cool.
I would probably also buy a painting. That's what I'm thinking. Probably. I think I would buy Burgo. William Burgo. This painting is in the Orsay Museum on the first floor near Dante. I would buy it out, though I don't know how much it would cost me, but I would definitely buy it.
And I would hang it in my house in Britain.
Maybe.
Of course, maybe. Everything we have in life.
But I wouldn't say for Hermes bags and so on. Those are all just little things, the small stuff in life. But of course, a painting by William Burgo, that is true art, true artistry. I could come back to see it many times and draw inspiration from it. What is depicted there? It's how Virgil and Dante watches 2 men kill each other. I think it was the 6th or 7th circle. I can't quite remember exactly. They're literally tearing each other apart with their teeth. That's called academism. Yes, this movement is called academism. They were academists. And William Burgo became the first revolutionary in academism, painting what others wouldn't. And that's what made him popular.
All right, let's do a couple more questions. We all know how much men are supposed to earn.
Oh, your question.
No, I want to ask, how much should women earn?
Listen, it wouldn't be bad if everyone earned at least $5,000 to $10,000 a month. That would be nice. For every woman. Or is that too much?
No, not at all. And about men, I remember last time you said 100,000. Has your opinion changed?
Of course, I've completely changed my mind.
How much should a man earn, Lera?
I think it should be from 10 to 20, but the most important thing is that he is a good person. Truly. Although, as they say, being a good person is not a profession. Being a good person is a profession, it's a way of life.
All right. Tell me, please, what essential skills and capabilities should a person truly possess now, looking ahead for the next 10 years, in this rapidly evolving world?
Flexibility. And focus. Paying attention to yourself, to your own life, not to other people's lives. Spend less time on TikTok and Reels and read more books. And of course, have a kind heart. A kind heart is truly a must-have, I believe, in today's world. Engage in charity work, absolutely, yes. For example, in Jewish tradition, there is this practice of always giving a tithe to help others, and it's done anonymously. That means you don't even know who you are giving it to. I believe that charity is extremely important. To all men who are considering choosing a wife, especially those who have wealth, I always tell my friends, Be sure to look for a woman with a kind heart, someone who won't just spend your money on Hermes and Cartier, but who will at least start by giving 5 to 10% to good causes. That's why I believe it's important, if a man is looking for a wife and he is a successful man with big ambitions, not just to focus on appearances, but to consider what kind of heart this woman has and how much she will contribute to your karma. Because every man who earns a lot of money sometimes has karma that needs improvement. Well, at the very least, let this woman help cleanse that karma, yes, and engage in charity work, rather than just choosing a shallow doll. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. It's not an opinion, it's simply a fact.
Tell me, please, who do you consider a successful person? What's success mean?
Success can take many forms. What goals do you set for yourself? You can be involved in charity and still be successful. You can have 5 children and raise them successfully. That in itself is already a success. You can achieve success in your career. You can become an outstanding politician. You can work at the UN and be successful. You can simply be an amazing artist, a creator, I don't know, and be successful. So for everyone, for me, success is subjective, it's personal. You can't just say, you're successful if you have €1,000,000 in the bank. And what if you don't have it? Does that mean you're not successful? For everyone, success.
Are you successful?
No, I see myself at the beginning of my journey.
I see. But it's often said that successful people are lonely. Isn't that true?
No, that's not true. They're not lonely. Why would they be lonely? For my birthday, 80 people are coming.
Yes, but many of the individuals I'm currently conducting customer development interviews with diverse entrepreneurs, ranging from women deeply involved in meditation and mindfulness practices to seasoned investors. A significant 7 out of every 10 people, out of a total of 10 individuals interviewed, consistently discuss and express feelings of profound loneliness.
I'm not lonely. I'm not lonely at all. If they feel lonely, that's their problem. They haven't managed to build a community where they wouldn't feel alone. That's all there is to it. I don't feel lonely at all. Truly, I feel as far from loneliness as one can imagine. In fact, sometimes I even want to spend some time alone to enjoy solitude, as it's now fashionable to say. So it's their choice, it's their decision. Only their choice.
All right, and what is happiness, Lera?
Happiness is living your own life without worrying about other people's opinions. That's all there is to it. Period. And most importantly, let me put it this way, happiness is when you help those in need. When you help someone in need. When they look at you with hungry eyes and you help them, you quench the thirst of someone in need. That's what it's about. That's happiness too, by the way, and it's even greater than personal gain. Try it sometime.
All right. I believe that the perspective from the future is always calm. What question from the future would you like to ask humanity, including yourself?
A question from the future?
Yes.
Why are you living your lives so meaninglessly? That's it. For what purpose? For the sake of what? Wake up, people. That's all. That's it.
Brilliant.
For the sake of what? That's it.
What for?
And to myself? To myself, I would ask. Actually, I wouldn't ask questions. I would just say, don't lose your way, stay on track, keep your focus. Always set the right goals.
Brilliant. What is the meaning of life, Lera?
Everyone has their own meaning of life. You can't say that there's only one. The meaning of life is to live your own life and help as many people as possible, if that is your mission. If not, then simply live your life the way you want to.
What emotions or feelings would you ideally like the person who is watching our episode to experience while they are viewing it?
I would like every person right now to ask themselves, what is their goal? What is he doing right now for himself, for others, and how is he living according to what scenarios?
I understand. Thank you. Probably the last, concluding question. How do you want to be remembered after your death? What would you like to leave behind?
As a savior. That's all.
What is your mission?
I won't say. That's something that isn't even up for discussion.
We're just getting started. I thank you for watching this episode. If even a single phrase resonated with you, touched your heart, then it means I started this and am doing it for a reason. So thank you for not being disappointed.
Thank you.